Chris Mygatt joined Coldwell Banker Colorado in 2000. He now leads 1,200 top sales agents serving 14 locations along the Front Range. This dedicated sales team helps local clients, just like you, buy and sell more than 10,000 homes every year. This consistent success has earned Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage the top spot in Colorado real estate for the last 10 years. Chris has become an industry leader, not just here, but around the country as well. He has taken his team's innovative marketing systems for both consumers and real estate agents, as well as successful agent compensation plans to other Coldwell Banker offices around the country. Chris is a proud, long-term Coloradan, and we are glad to have him among us tonight. So please welcome the president of Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage, Mr. Chris Mygatt.
Lane, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it. And we're glad we had a bit of reprieve from the weather, which is always really nice as well. So as usual, we have a lot to cover in a relatively short amount of time. And I do want to reiterate what Lane said, which is all the slides that you're going to see, you've seen earlier or will see this point on, will be made available to you. So a lot of great information there as well. We're going to focus in on regional and local real estate information. And then I'm going to leave all of the national real estate information to our resident national expert. Elliot is here today. If you haven't seen Elliot before, get ready, because it is amazing the way he's able to present a lot of important information in a way that's actually really entertaining as well. So as we dive into what's happening here locally, I wanted to start with a caveat. And the caveat is this: the same way you watch the nightly weather on TV, and you see that somehow, miraculously, here in Colorado, in Evergreen it's a blizzard, and in Pueblo it's 72 degrees and sunny. That same variance in weather is just like real estate. The real estate market in Evergreen, for example, may be very different than Congress Park or Highlands Ranch or downtown Fort Collins. So everything you hear, everything we talk about, I want to just remind you, keep in mind it may be unique for the market that you're in specifically. So where does the data come from? Because we have a lot of data we want to share with you. And we use it, we pull it from a number of really great sources. First of all, the FHFA.gov is an incredible resource that anyone of us in this room can access at any time. We also pull data from IRIS, the MLS up in northern Colorado, the MLS system here in central metro area, as well as info from the PPAR data source as well. So that's where our data comes from. So this slide is oftentimes really interesting because it puts Colorado in perspective with all the rest of the country. And we'll look more specifically at what's happening inside of Colorado. But I think the takeaway that many of us wonder is, where are the home sales happening? What's driving the market? And here in the Front Range of Colorado, clearly, first-time home buyers are dominating the number of units that are being sold every single year. No change for 2019. A lot of investor sales are still happening. So we're seeing really solid strength there. Nearly 20% of all of our sales happen without a mortgage. So that's good to keep in mind. There's a lot of cash still moving into the real estate industry, and distressed properties is making up a very, very small amount of the business. Now, much of what we're going to see tonight is looking in the rearview mirror. It's what's already happened. Gives us a perspective on what we can expect in the future as we move forward. This is really interesting from my perspective. A year ago, when we all met, Colorado ranked number 5 in the country in most appreciation year over year. This year, we ranked number 25. Now, don't worry, because I think actually this is very, very good news. You see, for the last year, home values across Colorado came in at about 5.1% year over year. But the real story, if you look on the right-hand column there, you're going to see a number 385%. You see, the FHFA.gov has been tracking home values across the country in the top MSAs for a number of years. In fact, since 1991. If you look at where Colorado ranks over that 30-year period, we rank number 2 to only Washington, D.C. Who knows what goes on there? There's some magic we have no control over there. What it tells you is Colorado has been historically, for 30 years, one of the very best places to own real estate. And I don't think there's anything that we see right now that's going to change that trend, so really good news. Now, as we go more into kind of a regional picture, more of a local market scenario, I want to start by saying that I don't care what you see media-wise. All the top medias have come out and said over the past year, past 18 months, that whether it's Fort Collins, whether it's Boulder, whether it's Loveland, whether it's Colorado Springs, whether it's Denver, we live in one of the best places in the country. And we're being rated and ranked every single year as that. And I think that drives many of those 60 to 70,000 people that Greg was talking about migrating into Colorado every year. So here's a quick snapshot on what's happening in the metro area. First of all, we track the number of homes sold throughout the year. Last year, 2019, we're up 4% year over year. If you look at the last 5 or 6 years, it's been fairly consistent, which is actually good to see. It shows some stability. This graph here talks about prices and what's happening price-wise. And although prices went up 3% in the metro area year over year, I think the real story is look at how straight that line goes up. Look at how consistent we're seeing appreciation in Colorado. We all have family members, friends, coworkers that live in places like Miami. They live in places like Los Angeles, or let's say Phoenix, Arizona, or places like Las Vegas. This line looks very different. What this tells all of us is we've got a sustainable, steady market here in Colorado, which makes it very attractive, not just for homeowners, but it makes it very attractive for investors as well. Looking at new listings, that inventory coming into the market, what are we seeing inventory-wise? Now, if you notice, we haven't seen the kind of inventory we had this year in 2019 since 2012. So we're building up a little more inventory, and quite frankly, if we were having this conversation as we look back in October and November, I would have said we're going to see even more inventory, but it's ratcheted back down again. So keep in mind we're going to see pressure there still. This is a great infographic that not only shows what the days on the market are, and by the way, we're at about 41 days on the market on average right now. We've got about 7 weeks of standing inventory in a given day. This represents a very tight, very competitive market still. Again, we're not seeing much of a change. We're not planning on seeing much of a variance there. But it's a tale of two stories. The lower price markets versus the upper end markets. If you look at this graph here, it shows you that if you have a house at around $500,000 or less, those homes are selling quickly, 28, 30 days on the market. When you move that up to $1 million, we're looking at more like 65, 70 days on the market. And when you tip the scale over $2 million, we're talking about, in many cases, 100 to 130 days on the market. Very different markets inside of the same market, and very different market pressures, obviously. So the stories we look up north of us here in Denver, in Larimer and Weld counties, we're seeing a lot of health in those markets as well. We're seeing inventories up. We're also seeing in both of those two markets, average sales prices going up, so healthy markets. Again, all these slides are made available to you, so if you want to spend more time in these areas, look more carefully. I really encourage you to go there. It's coloradoeconomicsummit.com. It'll all be loaded up by this coming Friday. Down south, in El Paso County, we're seeing inventory obviously tight down, putting upward pressure on price, and sales units are down in that market. This is kind of fun. We take that list that the FHFA.gov put together for us, and we rank every single MSA around the entire country. And when you look at what was the hottest market this past year, Chico, California, at nearly 15% appreciation year over year. And then you sandwich inside of that everything in Colorado. Well, I say every market that they're tracking at least. You'll see Colorado Springs led the way at almost 7% appreciation year over year. Grand Junction at just over 6%. And then Greeley, Fort Collins, both very strong, well over 3%. Aurora, Denver, and Boulder, Lakewood, around 3%. What we found is that for the most part, there's a following in those what I call sort of suburban areas. You look at Fort Collins, you look at Pueblo, you look at Grand Junction. They're trailing a bit behind. If we would have looked at this 2 years ago, you'll see Denver, Boulder really high, the rest of them lagging behind. It's a bit of a lagging market. So again, I think we're going to see those markets come down a bit too, but still in a place that's really positive for our market. Okay, the luxury market, obviously an incredibly robust, very important market for all of us here in the Front Range of Colorado, as well as in many of the resort communities. This is a great graphic. It gives you, and you can grab that link, again, it'll be on the deck that you get, but it's fun to see what the top listed prices are in the Front Range. Last year, the top sale was a house in Cherry Hills Village. You'll see there 21,000 square feet, because who could ever live in a house less than 20,000 square feet? I can't even imagine what you do. 6 bedrooms, 7.5 bathrooms. There's a bit of a story behind this. This house first came on the market actually in 2010. It was owned by a Level 3 executive, the CEO of Level 3. It came on at $22 million. Almost 10 years later, it's sold for 11.6. So that's a bit of a price reduction, price improvement, I would guess. But it gives you a bit of an idea of these big houses in the Front Range. This took 5 months to sell in its latest selling cycle. This I find the most amazing, because obviously I can't even imagine what a mortgage is on a house like that. I'm guessing you don't need one if you have a home like this. But this is interesting. The annual property taxes, not the purchase price, the annual property taxes, nearly $75,000 a year. $6,000 a month just in property taxes. Now, we take that and compare it to the highest priced residential property that sold in Colorado last year was actually in Aspen. This property came in at 8,200 square feet, sold for $23 million, and interestingly enough, property tax is $25,000. Why so low? The difference between rural property, if you will, county property versus in a municipality. So it makes a pretty big difference, as you can see. But here's what I would tell you. Real estate has always been and will always be a local phenomenon. It doesn't necessarily matter what's happening across town. What matters is what? What's happening in your neighborhood. That's what really matters. And we've got some great access to incredible data. We call them area reports and market reports. And again, they're loaded up by neighborhood, giving information about how many homes hit the market, what the average sales price of those homes were, how many actually sold, what the appreciation rates are in that neighborhood. And they're available all along the entire Front Range. So I encourage you to reach out to your Coldwell Banker agent to get that information, get on the list. Every month you get that update. Because ultimately, what really matters is what's happening in your neighborhood, and we recognize that. So looking ahead, yes, it's an election year. Elliot will speak a lot about that because it's the hot topic right now. But there are some things worth thinking about that we're seeing coming up this year that I wanted to share with you. First of all, when we look at the whole idea of inventory, what's happening inventory-wise, I think we're still going to see downward pressure on inventory. Even though it's up as compared to the last 4 years, it's only up slightly. It's only offering buyers a little bit of relief. When we look at the next driver, which is home prices, we certainly expect home prices in general, to appreciate, but at a slower rate than we've seen in the past. And I will tell you, for every one of us that sells real estate in this room, for every one of us that owns real estate in this room, that invests in real estate in this room, this is a really good sign. And it's steady, it's consistent, and that's what we look for in a long-term real estate market when it comes to building wealth in real estate. Mortgage rates, what's going to happen there? Last year was interesting. You know, we tipped the scale at over 5% a couple of times last year. This year, the forecast is much more modest. I think it's great news for everybody that is investing in real estate, buying real estate. They're thinking between 3.5 and 4.5 for the entire year. Again, it's real sustainable, very affordable. And lastly, what segment of the market are we going to see expand the most? And again, millennials are coming into the market in droves now. And they're looking at different types of properties. So we still see strength in that one single market segment. The upper end market, well, we'll speak to that in a quick second, because we look at strategies for this year. If you're buying, I think really simple, and that is be cautious, be thoughtful about what you're hearing from the media. In many cases, it sounds like it might be complicated or hard to buy real estate right now, and the reality is, couldn't be further from the truth. Real estate is very accessible for people in the market. Secondly, I would say if you're planning to buy with a loan in this upcoming year, make sure you get that handled ahead of time. Take the time to get fully pre-qualified, go through all the documentation, so that when you do hit the market, you can move with speed and clarity and surety, so you don't miss the home of your dreams. Also, I always say this, it's very important, I think, select an agent that knows the market you want to be in really well. See, a lot of opportunities in a tight market like Colorado's market will hit the market, not even make it to the MLS, and already be placed with the right ultimate buyer. So again, having someone that has local knowledge is really critical. And then lastly, in an appreciating market, you don't want to what? There's no glory in waiting in an appreciating market. You're bound to just fall behind that, so be aware of it. Now, if selling, the other side of the coin, if you will, listen, even though this market is really strong, really healthy, there are a couple of rules that still hold true. First of all, pricing matters. What you price your home for matters. Make sure that buyers walk in the house and say to their realtor, I wonder what I need to pay to get this house, versus coming into the house and saying, what do you think they'll take for this house? Creates a very different outcome. Pricing matters, condition matters, and the way that home looks matters more than ever before. So make sure you keep that top of mind. Also, if you're moving up, remember time is not your friend, because if you're buying a house more than the house you own today, that appreciation is going to cost you more than the benefit of not selling your current home. And then lastly, moving down, and this is really interesting, we're seeing a couple different trends happening right now. Many people who are moving, downsizing, you've heard, it isn't so much downsizing anymore. We're seeing a lot of people, a lot of boomers that are right-sizing for themselves. And oftentimes it may mean less square footage, but it may mean a different kind of location. It may mean a different level of quality of finishes and fixtures inside of the home. They may be spending the same money or even more money, but it's a different place and a different size. So keep that in mind as well. So overall, Colorado, we're looking at a very, very healthy real estate market. I'm going to leave you with 2 slides that are part of the deck you're going to take with you. These are great infographics that talk about the real estate market here in Colorado and nationally as well. Great information. And with that said, my time is up. Lane, back to you.